Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. It is one dreary Monday out here, kind of rainy and all. So sometimes you got to bring the Hoard inside, and that's what we got going on here. As I mentioned to you guys, I was at my son's in South Central PA. And while I was there, obviously I hit the flea markets. Love hitting the flea markets down there because you never know what you're going to find. As an example, you guys know I've been after some good screwdrivers, particularly a number 2 Phillips, and look what I found. Right, Matco. Gotta love it. Gave the guy $2 for that. Also found these 2 SKs. I think it's going to show you, maybe not. Anyway, that's a flat blade and SK Wade. Gave them all $2 for this one. The other one was $1. Another Phillips. So you guys know I've been after some decent flea markets, some decent screwdrivers, and I found them. By the way, I went to this flea market is in Thompsonville, Pennsylvania. It's known as Morning Star. If anybody wants to go there, it's not far out of Gettysburg. Fuel line. This was 50 cents. It's, you know, still soft. Valve tool for taking the valve retainers off and taking the valve out. This is the box it came in. Look at that. Made in the United States. I love shopping the flea markets in Pennsylvania particularly because I find that there's a much better possibility of picking up tools, older tools that were made in the United States. As an example, Utica, USA, and I just thought that was an interesting I don't know, some people call them water pump pliers. So there you go. These were $1. This was $2. This is typically a painter carries this. There's a blade on it for cutting sheetrock, and there's a blade on it for spackling, and there's a little hook on it. Craftsman stainless steel. They're made in China, but they got a really good movement to them. I picked up these and the thing that goes with it, but I can't show it to you because it might lead to my video having problems. These were $1 each. Very handy for trimming gaskets, stuff like that. Very sharp, and you can snap the end off and keep getting to a nice sharp piece. Sockets. No matter what, if I see a bin of sockets that I've not been through, I always give it a quick cruise. Some of the sockets came with this, which means that they're nothing great, but you guys know this thing is an extension that goes completely through the handle, 1/4 inch drive, like that kind. And then, like whenever I'm doing like this is a 6.12. Right, I just pick that up and throw it in there. And there's another one. I think this is Craftsman 8mm. Right, whenever I see something like that, I just pick them up because you know which ones do you use the most frequently. 8mm, which has the greatest possibility of getting misplaced. So I'm always grabbing that. I thought this was interesting. It is 8mm. It is 6 point, but it's I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that, but it says Goodyear on it. I thought that was interesting. So I don't know. I mean, the chrome doesn't look great. So I don't know if that was an early socket from Japan or China, and they just happened to use the Goodyear name on it. And once again, this came through as a piece, and I have a tendency to believe it's nothing great, but it was kind of like, you know, you have a handful of stuff, and the guy says, "Oh, give me $1 for all of it." Another spring compressor for valves, and this was he wanted 5. I gave him 4. A lot of times with this stuff, you have to take the valves apart on something. You have to get the valves loose, and I have the bigger, I'm going to call it frame style. They look like a gigantic C-clamp, and I've had success with using those, but sometimes they're really awkward and not the best thing to use. So these were both reasonable. I think I paid like very little for this. $4. I think they were $4 each. How could I have passed them up for that? Just nuts and bolts. I have a cabinet I kind of keep this stuff in, and sometimes you need to fix something, and one of these stupid little containers has just the right nut and bolt for you. So we got that. When I was a kid, they were doing construction on my street, and there were these things, and I wanted one so bad. So whenever I see them, I buy them, and they're you know, traffic lights to warn you of potholes and so forth, other road obstructions. Anyway, the two of them, both of them, were $1. The guy only wanted $1 for both of them. How could I have passed those up for $1? One just cannot. So this one has a solar array on it. I have to open it up, so I'm not sure what's in here. If this is full of LEDs, that solar array just doesn't really look big enough to have this put out enough light for you know, all day. I mean, these guys have that size solar array, and they're only lighting up one LED, and it doesn't last all day. So also the plastic looks older. It's got more of a Bakelite look to it. So I'm wondering if this doesn't just tell it to go on and off. It just doesn't. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 solar cells. You know, what are these good for? 0.7 each. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not thinking that would really put out enough power to fire this thing up and keep it lit all day. Though I don't know that. This is standard. I mean, I think it still has the batteries in it. It's pretty heavy. So yeah, this one's just standard. But I need to open them up and see what they have in there for lighting and so forth. But 2 of them for $1. I mean, whether you're using them as Halloween props or I have a few of these now, probably at least a half a dozen. One of them has a huge solar array on top. They took, I think it had lithium-ion batteries in it that they took out for another project, or they were no longer any good. That one I would like to get some lithium-ion batteries back into and set that one back up, because one could just kind of leave it out in the sun, and then you know, as you pull into the driveway, you can find it out there flashing. You guys could tell I've kind of backed off. I'm just not bringing stuff in bulk like I was doing before, because quite honestly, the hoard is pretty full. I'm trying to stick with, you know, tools that I need, or supplies that I need, or you know, once again, stuff I've been searching for. I mean, some those lights might perhaps be a little bit of whimsy, but the rest of it really does have a purpose. Stuff like this I kind of wear out. Sometimes I use them on wire that's too big for their capacity, and then sometimes they break. So stuff like this is good to add to the Hoard once in a while. And I just enjoy some of the older tools. By the way, this is substantial. This is very heavy. I can picture this back from the industrial days. You know, 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe even the 40s, where somebody kind of grabbed onto a pipe like that and wanted to twist it, and they were able to hang off of this, right, throw their full weight on it and not break it. Alright folks, I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember, please keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and get out there and enjoy every one of your days. Bye now, folks.